Set, here we go. Welcome to another special installment of the HeadSpace, and this one is particularly special. We're rounding up with 2021. It's been a dynamic year. Dakeza, myself, HeadSpace, the hip hop channel for South Africa. You know what to do.
Yeah. So, for starters, I want us to talk about the objectives in the HeadSpace.
Sure.
What were the objectives of the channel? What are we aiming for?
Yeah.
So the channel was started last year. Because initially we wanted to have a space for Eastern Cape hip hop. Wanted to thrive. From interviews, the reviews. But yeah, it's about the guys who are not actually given there's a special feeling. We exist.
The commercial platform.
Yeah, the commercial platform without mentioning any words, any platforms. So their space was color with the mindset, but it evolved with the introduction of VJ Nagasa.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
no, and I'm happy to be part of the ship, steering the waters and moving in the direction of developing authenticity, because from what you're saying, that the HeadSpace is dedicated to identifying talent, identifying artists who are here to tell us different facets of this general South African story, because I believe that the greatest art is art that gives us enjoyable moments and memories to capture our lives with, but also art that reflects on the times, so that we can go back. City Ingo Magabani not only impacted me because ndikhumbula ndijive down ethile, but I also remember what was going on socio-politically at that moment, because remember, rappers are not only crowd movers, they're not only mic checkers, masters of ceremonies, but they're also storytellers. Every verse, every line, as simple as it is, it's a story. So the HeadSpace is about artists who truly have something to say and who really take the craft of how to say that seriously, giving you that quality.
And also about Ilanduga, what we as heads, hip hop heads, what we always like to debate about.
Yeah.
So if you guys would see by Sikale Goat series, you check that episode, but it dropped on Wednesday. So yeah. So as always, we always have those debates. One is the greatest of all times. And then we pick points. No, he was weak at this. And obviously, with our 5 principles, we go by the 5 principles. Baba, you must know. Originality, emotional depth, mass appeal, technicality, consistency.
No doubt.
Those are the 5 principles. There's a lot of HeadSpace there. So whether we're reviewing your album, your EP, or we're doing the Gold series, or even a breakdown, those are the 5 principles. This is a do you tick these boxes? So that's what the HeadSpace is about. Yeah, bro.
No doubt. Omicron. And if I'm alive after this video, it's all good. On the 5 principles, it's important. I feel like as the HeadSpace, having started off on that foot, one of the reasons we did that, and I know you'll vouch for me on this, is that hip hop conversations lack qualification, like in the sense of if I say Ubani is the GOAT, if I say Ubani ain't the GOAT, if I say what is a GOAT, if I say what is a rapper, what is hip hop, we normally don't look at the assumptions we have when we talk about these things. So first and foremost, what we want to do differently on the HeadSpace is not only have the conversations, but have the conversations about the assumptions that motivate and how we approach it. So the 5 principles are a guiding mode for us to say we've looked at what makes art great from a holistic perspective and giving you what we think are foolproof qualities that make something stand the test of time. And if you don't think that's the case, but or if you feel like there's an additional quality, this is part of the conversation.
Yeah, it's part of the conversation.
We want to keep that rolling. We want to take these things from more than just simple debates and make them actual dialogues where at the end siyafunda sonke, both myself, Takeza, and you as our hip-hop head indebted followers of the channel, to really have a healthy, honest engagement about.
Well, hence I say cats need to utilize the comment section, but
please
challenge us. Talk to us. The 5 principles, yeah, shorter. Cool, but no, there's a 6th one, and we debate on it.
You know what I mean? And touching on that, there's a lot of people who've been hollering at us on some, why you think you good enough to give opinions.
Yeah, I wanted to.
And look, I feel like we're living in an age that's so beautiful and that's liberated us from a lot of things. And one of the
people are saying we must qualify ourselves.
So here's the quality.
Yeah.
There is an opinion and there is an educated opinion. Education is not found in a classroom exclusively.
Yeah.
In order for you to consider yourself an expert on something, first and foremost, you have to love it and you have to be dedicated to studying it in all aspects. And what Dakeza and I are, first and foremost, is students of the game. People who love it from the bottom of its core. People who have followed it and people who have been part of its story from a particular perspective. So are our narratives foolproof? Hell no. But how do we qualify ourselves to feel like we have the audacity to come in front of you and give you the hip-hop stories we think you deserve to hear? Because we love hip-hop and we study it and we listen to everything that's happening in the game, and we continuously use every day to track the momentum of where this country is going, hip-hop and rap-wise. So if you ever question that, check the resume, check the movement, check what we've been doing particularly, but also look at the past episodes. Critique us, talk to us, because first and foremost, we're students, we're fans, and we are people who really feel like the culture needs voices to start this conversation.
And touching on that, don't worry about who must qualify. We talked about this thing. Don't know about who qualify. Hip hop. How was hip hop started? How was it he started? It was a bunch of kids who were shunned from, like B-boys were shunned from dance schools because they were doing, that is...
No doubt, hip-hop.
Yeah, so they took elements of this, whether it's ballet and and then they created their own thing. So they created something, but somebody shares something that's existing, but when
here's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line. Hip-hop culture is sample culture.
That's all.
So here's the definition, and I'm gonna go for big enough to say this is the HeadSpace definition of hip-hop. Hip-hop is the culture of culture. In fact, hip-hop is cultural recycling for the benefit of improving disadvantaged communities through art. Now remember that definition. Hip-hop is cultural recycling for the benefit of improving impoverished communities through art. Why the culture of recycling? If you know the story of hip-hop, you know that it was inner city kids in the boroughs of New York, in the Bronx, who, from having a lack of resources, from buying old tape decks and taking old funk, jazz and reggae songs, took little breaks from songs in order for them to reinvent the past in new ways. Not really motivated out of some kind of creative impulse, but for the fact that they had no other way to do it.
Yeah.
They had no other kinds of resources. So when you have limited resources, you end up, and you have the passion and the love, you end up having innovative ways of using something that somebody else might have not have used in that particular way. Sometimes having a lack of resources, when coupled with having the passion and having sufficient tools to be able to do something about your predicament, creates some of the most revolutionary things you've ever seen. So that's what hip-hop blossomed out of. And I think that if you look at that, the story of the rapper, the story of the b-boy, the story of the graffiti artist, the story of the entrepreneur, the story of how hip-hop as a whole has expanded into this big part of pop culture, started out as the fact that it was people who struggled, who used what they had to reinvent and use it in very unique ways. And I think that that's still the spirit of hip-hop. That's why you can't come through doing something somebody else is doing and still claiming that you're hip-hop.
Yeah.
You can't just ride a wave. You can't just jump on a trend. You can't be doing the same old thing all the time. It's about taking what's been done already and finding ways to recycle that. So that's the HeadSpace definition of hip-hop. Debate us on it. Get at us.
Get at us. And also, since we're still on the HeadSpace, our schedule.
Talk to him.
Yeah. Our schedule is, people must know on a Sundays we drop reviews. Album reviews, EPs, it's Sunday, by Sunday.
Sundays are review days.
Yes, and then Wednesdays. Wednesday, that's where we change a little. We change. It's either we're doing, because our GOAT series, we do it on the last Wednesday of the month.
Right.
Because I believe is GOAT. So I'm saying we need to do one GOAT per month.
Okay.
So but
we got that.
Yeah, is our new Kalondole in terms of, also it's about you guys engaging us and saying, we've got a lot. So I know you today. So people must go in the comment section and say, do it twice a month.
So Wednesdays are for discussions, whatever.
On the highs and lows.
We can't have this episode without really talking about fundamental moments during this year.
2021.
What we consider the highs and the lows. So for me, I'm gonna start with one of my lows. Truly is hip-hop, South African hip-hop's response to the piano wave.
The piano wave.
What do I mean by that? I really feel like South Africa is a country that has such a congested and small pop culture scene that whenever a movement or a genre breaks through and people are given success off of that, there's a tendency to try and relegate power and keep everything else out. But eventually, because time and change just moves in a way where nobody can control anything, and it's just all about adapting, people struggle to really shift and shape themselves according to what is happening in the world. And I think for the largest part, I've reflected and observed how the response to piano's success, because piano came and filled a void by generating something which was powerful in two ways. It has a feel, nostalgia.
Yeah, because you could say it filled the void of Equaito.
It has a feel, nostalgia, but at the very same time, it's a current interpretation of what the youth are feeling in their hearts and soul, and the rhythm of South Africa's current dynamic. And because of that, it is what it is. It is the most dominant reflection of what South African youth are feeling like, and how they want to express their anger through joy. And as a result, it's a challenge to hip-hop. It makes hip-hop hot under the collar, and I feel like
because hip-hop feels like they're the ones who should represent what everyone is feeling at the current moment.
Here's what I feel it promotes and what I feel it encourages. Piano is authentically South African, and the reason South African hip-hop could not keep up is that a lot of our influence is not authentically ours. Because hip-hop is a global culture, we always have our eyes on the States. And have this immediate energy of taking whatever is happening in the United States and just drawing from it and finding a way yoichinja in bits and pieces, si-classify or maybe simzanzify for lack of a better term. But what that does, Kengogu, is that you'll find Ukubana 90% of what we produce is produced to try and fit into the global space. And for that reason, I reflect ubutina. What do I mean by ubutina? The rhythmic pattern is seeing the way that it moves does not really represent the way South African people dance and the way that they groove. But because we're also part of a bigger global culture, we take it in anyways.
Yeah.
So my low point is the fact that SA hip hop has been given a challenge to find itself again, to find out how it can be as South African as possible, so that if any other wave comes, it doesn't die.
Even feel threatened.
It does, yeah. It doesn't die such an observably gruesome death, because when things adapt, zibezi authentic, they age well. I mean, take a look at how Kwaito has aged overall. Kwaito artists are not the popular dominant leaders of today's generation, but they are in the memory bank of South African culture. And namhlanje, if you put on Sister Bettina, if you put on Khodoba, if you put on Galagata, if you put on Mdlembe, Somlinda Ngengoma, they still have that same effect. They have a kind of a timeless thing to them, because you remember them from your memories if you didn't like them like that, so you can't help but move your feet. Or if you really did like it, it brings back all those memories. Either way, what helped it remain over time? It came from a genuinely authentic place. I can't emphasize this well enough. If we are not authentic, we will die the death of trying to become global at the expense of being proud of ourselves. At the expense of being authentic with ourselves. So my low point is South African rap has not yet responded and has not yet become authentic. There's certain artists here and there who I feel might lead the way. Don't want to talk about them right now. That's another episode. But the point I'm trying to make is that as the HeadSpace, as Vijay Nakasa, I feel like one of our low points is that instead of us really going back and reflecting on what can the new South African hip-hop sound like, we either bitched about piano or we jumped on
the piano wave.
Next,
the high point, actually the progressive Vilanduga hype mag.
Wait, Sikulo?
Still wanna get on the lows?
Yeah, I feel there's another low. I feel like one of the other lows for me, honestly, has been the lack of authentic hip-hop journalism. Here's one thing. Here's one thing.
That's why the HeadSpace was created.
Here's one thing I feel like we miss as an industry in South Africa. Artists make art. Journalists talk about the artists that make great art. Everybody else gets their information from those two mediums. Shout out also to one of the most incredible hip-hop journalists that ever existed, Greg Tate. If you don't know that name, research that name. He recently passed away this year, so that was a low light on
my point
on a global level.
Also when it comes to hip-hop journalism, Sabelo Mkabela always giving us hard-hitting Landoga from OK Africa, The articles, there's articles, but Sabelo Mkabela always been keeping it real, carry on. So shout out to Greg Tate, and the reason why I'm going on this tangent is because I feel like I'm looking at the outlets, and the biggest outlets in South Africa still lack real rich journalism. And what do I mean by that? People who know their stuff, to an extent where they're on the pulse of things others haven't discovered yet, and people who want to tell the stories of the artist beyond the clout and the pop appeal. Because what has happened is that social media culture has now influenced a lot of so-called journalists to tell the easy stories, the clickbait stories, the sensationalism, the scandal type stories. I honestly don't give a shit if Casper dropped a new Bentley. What I want to know is how that reflects on South African culture and society. So what I mean is, I'd rather read an article that says, what does Casper's new Bentley represent about the way that he thinks, rather than talking about the new Bentley in itself and how much it costs,
and all of that. So there's a lack of real reflection, there's a lack of real in-depth analysis to each journalism here too. And as the HeadSpace, we want to bring that on an audio visual format, but I'm definitely calling out the writers. You need to do better, because if our artists are going to get their stories told and archived properly, it's gonna be through platforms that know the real journalism. And this year I read a lot of articles. I am not fucking impressed.
Next. Oh, you've got all the lows.
You still got the last low, because I think like I'm doing 3. The last low is the South African Hip Hop Awards. The South African Hip Hop Awards are a low. We've covered this, but I feel like we need to conclude it, because we've got.
Look, I also respect. When we covered the SAHAs, the South African Hip Hop Awards, we got a backlash from the organizers.
We got bitching. That's what we got. We got bitching from the organizers, because they have not been criticized on a platform large enough for them to feel hot under the collar. And instead of responding openly and having dialogue, they've been intimidating us or trying to.
Through Ilanduk.
We're not going to name any names. But you know what? It's lovely, because we're doing something that's obviously touching people in the kind of buttons that makes them shake up a bit. Because you know what? The HeadSpace is about critical hip-hop journalism. We said it before, and we will never stop.
It's uncut, Baba. If
we think
and you wanna say it's SA hip hop, obviously.
Let's see it. Let's see the diversity. Let's see the authenticity. Let's see you covering artists.
So we're not attacking the people behind the SAHAs. We are not attacking the SAHAs, the product. So it's the true representation of Iladoga. Is South African hip hop? No, it's not. No, it's not. So as a hip hop awards, you need to do better.
So that those are the
3 low points.
The low points, right? So let's go to the high points.
Okay, now that we're done with LOWZ. Let's get on the highs, because let's say high anyway.
Okay.
The highs. You were saying about like, I was surprised that you actually follow the hype after a traditional Landoga Basiteng.
After the death of the hard copy magazine.
The death of the hard copy. For me, I thought, okay, I know it's dead.
No, look, here's my. Okay, so here's what we're talking about. We spoke off camera, but my first high point of the year has to be the persistence and quality work that's been coming out of Hype magazine. Here's why this is so important for me. Hip hop has been pushed by publications. In terms of its media momentum, and it being able to go to each and every person. Magazines used to shape our opinions growing up in the 80s and 90s.
Y-Mag and the Hype.
Exactly. If we're talking on a global level, you have the Source Awards, coming from the Source magazine in itself. You have Double XL. You have all kinds of magazines that helped shape the discourse and the conversation around rap. Even the culture of like giving people 5 mics or whatnot. It's all a culture that like really resonated out of magazines. Hype was our source. Hype was a magazine which like organically grew out of our hip hop movement, and as it grew, felt the pressure of accommodating the commercial base, because obviously you gotta eat. And in getting to eat, there was a lot of struggle and conflict. We won't talk about that. Maybe Hype needs an episode of its own, probably. But I feel like as a publication, it's been able to survive and jump into the digital age. And I was really curiously looking into that, because I want Hype to win. I want to be able to say, I still have a couple of copies, and check this thing, it's still alive, it's still moving, it's still growing. And I've been looking at the kind of artists that they feature. I've been looking at the kind of stories they focus on. They really have their eye on the good talent. They really have their eye on who's up and coming in the wave right now, who's doing something different. They're broadening their capacity. They're not just catering to the palette hip hop, of just giving people the popular artists or the artists that make the popular sound. they are to a great extent still trying to be all-encompassing and representative of where hip-hop is now in general. And their writing is not too bad either. And I feel like if they get a little bit more critical with it, if they get a little bit more analytical from the journalism perspective, and they touch on how these new artists affect the politics, the culture, the style, the aesthetic of the new South Africa, it will be very cool to watch. So a High Point has been watching Hype and being so persistent. Shout out to Hype magazine in its new shape and form and what it's doing. Salute. Next.
So next. The next high point.
The next high point.
The next high point is MT and Aries.
Yes.
Surviving your being axed by a major label.
You know, this year was a year where both artists really showed themselves and moved from the strength of their fan base. MT's Logan album really proved for me the fact that when you are authentic to who you are, because I feel like MT, shout out to MT, is one of those artists who, you know, tried to do this trap thing in a way which represented him, his background, and how his people talk, how his people move, how his people speak. And yeah, we know half of the time he's all doped up and doesn't know what to say, but he really does have something to say. And for the most part, he's been giving us a lot of heartfelt songs that come from a place that is so inspiring, that his fan base is still supporting him even after the whole Ambitious saga. You guys have to realize how difficult it is to make it out of being out of a major label. You are no longer on television. You are no longer on radio. And for me, what this shows is that both of these mediums
are dying. Yeah.
So let's give a hand clap for the death of television and radio. Because what
hence the introduction of the HeadSpace.
Thank you.
Yeah,
because it gives platforms like us the ability to tell stories from angles that television and radio has been gatekeeping out for so long. So what MT and Aries represent, shout out to Aries as well, is the power of being authentic and the power of understanding your fan base and how to cater to them in this new online media market. Highlight, shout out boys, keep doing it. Rappers and anybody in the movement, you gotta learn from these cats. They're making major moves, and I really hope that they still continue to learn and find ways to reinvent themselves as the years go by.
Yeah,
but we as the HeadSpace,
the TV, but just know that your fans are not there.
Your fans are not there.
The
only body who's there is Pram Crumpy old man who's gonna ask you Hippie Payola. Next.
Okay, the third one.
Yeah.
The third high point.
The third high point definitely has to be the rise of culture conscious new wave rappers. And what do I mean by that? We've had an increasing amount of audio tune filled skr screaming, it's lit, high beasting, dreadlocked, grill wearing young kids who are out here,
purple hair,
you know, doing what's being done. And shout out to the culture in the way that it's morphing and growing.
And we're not hating on that.
We ain't hating, we're just stating how it is. But most of these cats have the tendency to just regurgitate American culture onto our South African lives. And I think I gotta give a shout out to artists like 25K, to artists like Upleki, Bravo Leroux, Flash Kumkani. The list is endless.
It's endless. It's endless.
Shout out to Maclera, dope boy.
Yeah.
A lot of artists who are looking at the wave but interpreting it in a way that is so authentically South
African.
I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna say the word authentic here probably more or less 1,000 times because it's important. Authenticity cannot be understated. So shout out to the new wave of young artists who are showing this generation that, hey yo, first things first. Matter of fact, dilated people said it best. Worst comes the worst, but my people come first. And that's what hip-hop artists need to learn. Your people come first, because who are you making music for? If you ever make it on the world stage, who's gonna take you there? Your people. So shout out to the artists who understand that and who are reflecting that.
Ooh, see, Jenny, we done, Muslim.
We did it.
We did.
We did it. 2021.
Happy New Year. We know that when it's a New Year, people have resolutions.
Yeah.
You know, about what they aspire to do on the land or on the next year. But yeah, we thought we're gonna take a step back and look at what happened. But moving forward, the HeadSpace is gonna grow.
Yeah.
Through the help of you guys, also you guys subscribing, sharing, also commenting in the comment section below. Dialogue, challenge us. Is not heart and roses.
It's not absolute.
It's not absolute. So,
it is an opinion.
Yeah. So now we're gonna no man. Like we I've got a different opinion, and we're gonna engage you. Hence, I was saying we're gonna have that special episode once a month.
Yeah.
And then so next year, next year.
Next year.
What can they expect from us?
Improvement of quality, because we've been listening to everybody giving us advice on and in different aspects, people coming through the DMs, and we really appreciate that, our people, because what it does to us is that it shows us that kule level sikuyo, we're already resonating far and wide, and we're really looking at how to grow, how we'll grow, and how we'll eventually grow. So the only thing I have to say, 2022 to infinity and beyond, with your help, for as
long as it's a perfume.
So shall us go.
Peace.